Hey, what's going on, True Fam? Welcome back to the channel. It's Whiteshadow, and today, guys, we're going to be talking about the RTX 2070 release and what that means for all of you streamers out there. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So guys, RTX 2070, the GPU, is out on the market now. A lot of conflicting benchmarks have been put out. Some say that the GTX 1080 is just as good as the RTX 2070, and then there's on the other side of that, there are things saying that Vega 64 and the GTX 1080 both get stomped by the RTX 2070, and that the 2070 is matching that of the 1080 Ti performance, or is somewhere in that weird in between. And then there's other conflicting reports saying that Vega 64 and RTX 2070 on DirectX 12 are now better than the GTX 1080 Ti and the 1080, and that performance is only going to get better with time. So we're in this weird market area where graphics cards are starting to come out and they're not good at initial release, but over time they are built to be future-proofed, because the current technology, the kind of saying goes, why would I build something for the now? Why wouldn't I build it for later? So we're going to kind of like break down all of the benchmarks that you guys have seen online about this particular GPU and what it could mean for us as streamers going forward. Because I know the price points aren't very good for RTX. And I know that a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm just going to buy a GTX 1080 Ti or a GTX 1080 or even a 1070 Ti to upgrade your graphics cards. And personally, I kind of wanted to make this video to kind of share my thoughts with you guys and what you should look for going forward as a long-term investment on your graphics card, because now we're at a point in time where graphics cards, processors, like just our entire systems that we upgrade, because these things are the brains of our entire setup. You need to start thinking long term. Let me break all of that down for you guys and what that means to me. So RTX 2070, in theory and in the benchmarks that I have seen, it is better than a GTX 1080 or a GTX 1080 Ti. Here's why I say that. And this goes for the Vega 64 as well. The reason why I say all of this stuff about like, oh, Vega 64 is only going to get better with time, the RTX 2070 is only going to get better with time, because games will start taking advantage of these new technologies that AMD and Nvidia are creating. The games that we currently have right now don't really take advantage of these things because they're already out on the market. They will be updated at a later date. Some may not, but games next year, the year after that, the year after that, will start taking advantage of these things, making your current graphics card that you have just bought not need to be upgraded for a little while. The longevity of our hardware is going to start taking effect for a longer period of time. I personally think that graphics cards aren't going to be on a yearly release cycle anymore. I believe that we're going to start seeing a 2-year release cycle, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. Like the 3000 series of Nvidia could come out next year just because every company needs money. But I do foresee at least a 1.5 year longevity, or release cycle I should say, for these graphics cards going forward. The GTX 10 series is going to be fantastic for a long period of time. So if you have a GTX 1080, you're only gaming at 1080p or 1440p, you're fine. Your graphics card is going to last you a long time. Same goes for a 1080. But if you really want to take advantage as a streamer of the additional technologies that are out there from a graphics card, so say DLSS, the tensor cores that are inside of an RTX card, the additional processing power for artificial intelligence that is inside of the RTX cards. Those cores that they have, additional cores outside of CUDA. And if you don't know what CUDA is, I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can understand more about what CUDA is. But outside of CUDA, the tensor cores and the other, I forget the other name of the cores, they have to deal with artificial intelligence and the RTX cores. But those additional cores can actually be utilized by X264 encoding for additional encoding, making the new RTX graphics cards great for rendering or for encoding your streams, taking a little bit more stress off of your processor and allowing the graphics card to both play the game, because the game just uses the CUDA cores. It has nothing to do with the tensor cores. So now those tensor cores that you're not using currently for an RTX title can be used to encode your stream, and they are just as strong as an AMD Ryzen processor, because we all know the AMD Ryzen has been very, very good for encoding. So now your graphics card can really handle and take a lot of stress off your system, making it kind of worth the price point. And for the entry level into RTX is the 2070. So you can get an RTX 2070 right now for about $499. You can get a little bit higher clocked version with a better cooler and just, it looks nicer, for right around $529 to $549. That's right around what the 1080 was, and still some of them are on the market right now. So if I'm looking at this from a streaming standpoint, I would go for the RTX 2070 because it provides additional technology for my stream. I'm not just going to be playing a game or rendering a video off of this thing. I'm also going to be encoding my stream. GTX 1080 can't encode a stream as well as an RTX 2070 or an RTX 2080, 2080 Ti, whatever. Same goes for Vega. Where I'm going with this here is the Vega 64 and the RTX 2070 handle DirectX 12 gaming a lot better than a GTX 1080 or a GTX 1080 Ti. Granted, the 1080 and the 1080 Ti do handle DX12 very, very well. But with the additional implementation of Vega 64's rapid packed math and just how many raw cores that GPU has, it has way more horsepower and way more additional stability while using DX12. It also has HBM memory, which is high bandwidth memory, which is just incredible when it comes to DX12, because DX12 is then able to take advantage of that high bandwidth memory, whereas a GTX 1080 or a 1080 Ti does not have the high bandwidth memory. So you've got plenty more bandwidth to play with, you've got a lot more cores to play with, and DX12 is able to take advantage of all of that because AMD didn't look at the now, they looked going forward. That also translates to RTX 2070 and the rest of the 20 series. All of the DX12 titles are going to be able to take advantage of those tensor cores, all of the new available CUDA cores, and all of the brand new technologies. And actually, RTX handles OpenGL and Vulkan a lot better now too. I think we're in a really unique situation where, like, yeah, RTX 2070 looks great on paper, but the performance isn't there now. And that scares a lot of people. But going forward and kind of looking at streaming as a thing, because we're streamers here, we talk about streaming tech. Streaming is very viable on an RTX card. So if you're a streamer and you're really looking to upgrade your PC and your production value, you should honestly look at RTX or a Vega 64 card rather than looking at a GTX 1080, because the additional technologies inside of those other GPUs out there are a lot more valuable to us than they are if we were just building a gaming system. Kind of think about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and let's have an open discussion about the new technologies that are out there in graphics cards and just the longevity of these new GPUs that we're seeing come to the market. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button and then be sure to slam that subscribe button. And I would appreciate you guys checking out my other videos on the RTX series and kind of discussing the topic altogether. But guys, that about does it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Whiteshadow out.